This is Standing Watch. And now, Evangelist Norbert Link.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome back to our Standing Watch program. It's amazing, isn't it, what Trump has been able to do within a little bit more than 2 weeks since he became the President of the United States. I'd like to focus today on his actions and on his plans related to international matters, and that in the light of biblical prophecy. And with this, I want to emphasize that his actions, whether they're good or bad, will result in further alienation of the United States in all the world, as has been predicted in the Bible. And so much more will happen. The speed with which Trump operates underlines his apparent conviction that God has protected him from deadly attacks to do a great job, and that he seems to know that he does not have much time. Even though he insinuated from time to time that he may stay as president for a third term, he has also clearly stated during the presidential campaign in 2024 that Americans will not have to vote again. I already spoke about Trump's ambitions towards the Panama Canal and Greenland. In both cases, he did not rule out military intervention. Whether or not this was meant as a bargaining ploy, the other side does take him seriously, especially Panama, Denmark, and Western Europe, and they are preparing for action. The next chapter was the tariffs against Mexico, Canada, and China. At the last minute, he postponed tariffs against Canada and Mexico for 1 month, pending further negotiations, but he did not exempt China, which has already begun to retaliate. He had invoked the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, which allows him to take measures in response to, and I quote, an unusual and extraordinary threat. This law authorizes a president to regulate imports during a national emergency declared under the Act. It was interpreted to apply here due to the three nations' tolerance of illegal immigration and fentanyl. However, before reaching the agreements to postpone the tariffs for a month with Canada and Mexico, he had emphasized more, if not exclusively, the economic aspect, stating that the USA had been unfairly treated economically by these countries. That then has some cause to conclude that the tariffs against Canada and Mexico were not based only on immigration and drugs. The Wall Street Journal wrote on February 3. The ultimate goal remains unclear. The post-war bipartisan consensus that the United States prospers by fostering cooperation and integration with allies and neighbors is gone. Trump's motives are difficult to discern. Drugs and migrants might turn out to be a pretext for a bigger, long-term goals. It has been said that Trump intends to make America great again by diminishing the power of every other nation. Cooperation is not an objective, his focus is dominance. Trump's second-term actions make little distinction between adversaries and allies. So far the article by the Wall Street Journal. And this could very well be a correct assessment. The tariff threat towards Canada, whether it will ultimately be carried out or avoided, has left many Canadians filled with anger. Anger against Trump, coupled with the rejection of his idea to have Canada become the 51st state of the United States. Al Jazeera wrote on February 3, For many across the country, the potential for a trade war between the long-term allies continues to fuel a sense of anger, as well as anxiety and confusion over what is to come. Trump's threat of tariffs has also raised questions about the nature of the cross-border relationship and spurred calls for Canada to boost in-country trade while looking beyond the US for more reliable international partners. Asa McKercher, a professor who studies Canada-US relations, said the current trade tensions have plunged the relationship to its lowest point. We haven't really seen the Americans go out of their way to impose a policy that will just destroy the Canadian economy. There has been an uptick in nationalist sentiments in Canada. Canadian crowds booed the US national anthem at hockey and basketball games over the weekend, where the leaders of several provinces have urged people to buy Canadian in response to the tariffs. We are really subject to the whims of a guy in the White House, and that's a very scary thing, it was said. Even as Canada appears to have secured a reprieve from US tariffs, at least for now, many Canadians have expressed anger at Trump's repeated threats against their country. And then he has threatened Europe with tariffs. Now here the International Emergencies Act could not be invoked to justify those tariffs. It would be strictly on an economic basis. Europe is concerned, and it's working on a unified effort to retaliate against Trump should he enforce any tariffs. The Guardian wrote on February 3. French President Emmanuel Macron said that if Europe is attacked in terms of trade, it will have to stand up for itself and therefore react. Danish Prime Minister Frederiksen, who is already embroiled in a separate crisis with Trump over the future of Greenland, said that while she would typically never support fighting allies, if the US puts tough tariffs on Europe, we need a collective and robust response. Luxembourg's Prime Minister Frieden also said the answer to tariffs is to reply with the same action. Then, the latest bombshell so far, Trump, standing next to Netanyahu, declared that America will take over Gaza. Breitbart wrote on February 4. Trump saw America taking a long-term ownership position. Trump had previously said that he would like to see most, if not all, of the Palestinian population of Gaza move to another Arab or Muslim country. The idea of actually taking over Gaza and establishing a US presence was both unexpected and completely new. Trump added that the US would develop Gaza economically, sending troops if necessary, and making investments. Trump has previously proposed buying Greenland, so he is not averse to the idea of America taking over territory abroad. However, the idea of taking over war-torn Gaza is completely unique and quite possibly revolutionary. And then Fox News added on February 5, when asked whether US troops would be sent to Gaza, the president said, as far as Gaza is concerned, we'll do what is necessary. If it's necessary, we will do that. Now, in a subsequent message posted on Truth Social on February 6, Trump seemed to backpedal somewhat, saying the Gaza Strip would be turned over to the United States by Israel at the conclusion of fighting. The Palestinians would have already been resettled in far safer and more beautiful communities, with new and modern homes in the region. No soldiers by the US would be needed. However, that is more than questionable, because somebody will have to maintain the peace. And so Republican Senator Rand Paul, slamming the Trump proposal, said, the pursuit of peace should be that of the Israelis and the Palestinians. I thought we voted for America first. We have no business contemplating yet another occupation to doom our treasure and spill our soldiers' blood. Also, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth had doubled down on Wednesday, February 5, on President Trump's proposal for the United States to take over the Gaza Strip, saying all options are on the table. Now, the international reaction to Trump's statement was, of course, predictable. The Guardian wrote on February 5, Trump's declaration the US will take over the Gaza Strip sparks global condemnation. UK, Germany, China, Iran, Turkey, and Saudi Arabia speak against the announcement described as ethnic cleansing by human rights groups. And GTA added on February 5, Saudi Arabia also noted that it would object to any efforts to displace Palestinians, an idea Trump has repeatedly insisted on in recent days. The firm's statement illustrates the gap between Saudi Arabia and Trump. Now, regarding Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, the Drudge Report linked on February 5 to an article by the Times of Israel from November 14, 2024, stating, and I quote, President-elect Donald Trump's nominee for Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, suggested that a temple could be re-established on the Temple Mount in a resurfaced speech he gave in 2018 in Jerusalem. He also rejected the two-state solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Now, this brings me to the development of biblical prophecy. And I believe that Trump came to power again to be used for that very purpose. For instance, the temple will be built in Jerusalem prior to Christ's return, apparently with the help of outside powers. And who would be better equipped to fulfill that role than President Trump? During his first term, he was clearly confronted with the idea of building the temple, being compared with King Cyrus, who enabled the Jews to build the second temple. And he allegedly asked some Jewish religious leaders, how much time do I have to do this? Then, he's also being used to alienate America from the rest of the world, including Europe, because that is also prophesied and it has to be fulfilled prior to Christ's return. Europe will unite. It will ultimately fight against the United States. That is implausible to many observers today because they simply do not understand biblical prophecy. God said it's going to happen, and so it will happen. Period. There's so much more, and we will keep you informed. Yes, it appears that Trump has only a very limited time to do what he is being led to do. It seems he knows that. Do you know that? Thanks very much for listening. This is Norbert Link for the Standing Watch program.
Standing Watch is a presentation by the Church of the Eternal God, P.O. Box 270519, San Diego, California 92198. More information is also available at our website, eternalgod.org.